Hello and good day, Mike Adcock with your worldwide tropical outlook for today, the 13th of September 2013. This is valid through 12 Zulu. Do have a few areas that we're tracking today. Mani in the western Pacific do have a disturbance 90E that's should be becoming a tropical storm over the next several hours, or tropical depression rather, and then a couple of depressions and a hurricane out in the Atlantic. Let's start off in the western Pacific though with Tropical Storm Mani at 12Z. This was about a little over 1,400 miles south of Tokyo. Winds have increased to 35 knots, gusting to 50. Pressure awfully low, actually 994 hectopascal, and it is continuing to move off to the west-northwest at 17. We've been watching this throughout the week, actually into last week. This system models had been all over the place looking for a significant typhoon at one point. Right now, the models have been a little bit on point, and that's to be expected now that the system is starting to organize up. It is awfully awkward, and you're taking a look here at the multispectral image. Very much a comma-shaped storm, not seeing a whole lot of convection over, quite pronounced banding versus a mass of convection. So that's going to be interesting to see how that helps evolve this storm. Taking a look at the JMA forecast here. Again, northwesterly flow by really midday on your Saturday. Should start seeing the influence of a trough moving out of China. That's going to help start to pull it more to the north and then northeast, and eventually, at least right now, the thinking is affecting in and around the Kanto Plain and Tokyo areas. Here's the JTWC forecast. Pretty similar actually. Right now it does bring tropical storm force winds into portions of the Tokyo metropolitan area. We'll see how this plays out. They do bring it to 65 knots prior to landfall. The question is, how much is this trough going to affect it? Once we get into Monday morning, Monday afternoon, trough should really be helping to transition this storm quickly into an extratropical system, and at that point it should be hauling off to the northeast, and by the time it gets out well off to the east of Honshu, you should see that system rather accelerated. About the same time, it's going to be ingesting quite a bit of cooler, drier, and more stable air, as well as some increasing shear. Considering the current satellite presentation, again, it's going to be a little difficult for the models to have a good handle, and of course, right now, looking at a low confidence in the track, you're going to see that shift around, especially over the next few days. A couple of the models, again, really looking at southern and central Japan as your main threat areas, and then as for intensity, you should see some further intensification over the next few days. It may flirt with typhoon, typhoon status, but I don't anticipate it much above that. Of course, we're going to have to see how it evolves. The models are going to change, so may see some changing theories behind how Mani will live out. 90E here, this is a disturbance on the west coast of Mexico. Mexico's getting a 1-2 punch between this and the tropical depression over in the Bay of Campeche. At 6 Zulu, this was about 215 kilometers southwest of Acapulco, 30-knot winds. You'll notice there's 70% though high risk for into development. And looking at the tropical weather outlook, right now the National Hurricane Center's talking about this becoming a depression later today or tonight as it moves off to the northwest to north. Between this system and Depression 10, though, looking for very heavy rains across a large majority of southern and central Mexico, and this is going to cause some mudslides, flash flooding. So going to be a period of concern there for Mexico. This isn't going to be a huge storm bearing down, but the amount of rainfall that a large portion of the country will receive will be troublesome. Here's your track guidance again. To the north-northwest, should be making landfall in the next couple of days. In terms of intensity, should see some intensification into a tropical storm prior to landfall. The longer it does take to get its act together, though, those chances do decrease. Did mention Tropical Depression 10 over in the Bay of Campeche. That's the other side of the punch, about 120 kilometers right now, east-northeast of Veracruz. 30 knots, gusting on up to 40. Really not a whole lot of forward progression with this. It is pretty stagnant. In terms of development, right, or at least the current analysis, you see quite a bit of conviction starting to kick up. Still not well organized. The satellite estimates were between 35 and 30 knots. No surface observations, though, are right now really supporting tropical storm force winds, so may see an upgrade, though, a little bit later on. It's fighting, though, quite a bit of shear, and you can see that here. Outflows really on just the northeast side. For the next few days, again, pretty stagnant conditions. Didn't want to mention, we do have that tropical storm warning out for portions of Mexico. But yeah, again, this system's going to kind of meander for rest of Friday into Saturday. Once we get into Sunday, should start picking up some speed, moving off to the northwest. The longer it does sit around and stay stationary, the more time it'll spend over water. May see some additional intensification. Right now, National Hurricane Center is peaking in at about 55 knots at the day 3 point. Here's your track guidance. Again, moving off to the northwest. Pretty weak steering currents after about the 24-hour point. It does start to be influenced by an upper level low in Mexico, as well as some ridging in the southeast U.S. That's going to help start to push it. Right now, looking at landfall in about 72 hours. And with this quasi-stationary near-term movement, the track forecast is going to be a bit sketchy. As for the intensity, again, the more it kind of hangs out, the more time it stays over water, the more chance it gets to develop. Right now, looking at 55 knots, some slow strengthening. But right now, really nobody's talking about this becoming a hurricane. And again, the biggest threat, not so much the winds, but the heavy rainfall between this and the other developing system on the west coast. Tropical Depression Gabrielle, been following this the past few days off the east coast. Pretty much done now, 580 kilometers south-southeast of Nantucket. Satellite estimates pretty much giving it the thumbs down, 25 to 30 knots, and it's pretty much dead. Did see some convection pop up. Right now, the official forecast kills it off within the next 24 hours. Here's your track guidance, just continuing it across the maritime provinces of Canada. And basically over the next 12 to 24 hours, this is going to merge in with a cold front and die off. Now, I do say die off, that is a little bit sketchy. The intensity models do intensify this system somewhat, and really that's just because this system is becoming more extratropical. It's getting that shot of baroclinicity, that is some cool air advection being filtered in. The system, instead of being a warm core cut off low, it's going to become a cold core system with fronts. So with that said, expecting some intensification. Whether it makes Category 1 strength, doubtful, but again, becoming a mid-latitude storm. You'll notice here at the top two is being referenced as Disturbance Gabrielle. The 12Z best track did downgrade it to a tropical disturbance. And then lastly, Hurricane Humberto also starting to weaken well off to the northwest of the Cape Verde Islands. Winds currently 65 knots, gusting to 80. That's actually awfully generous. You see a lot of wind shear with this, about 20-25 knots. And that's keeping all the convection off to the east side. Kind of a naked swirl being left behind it. Going to continue to move off to the northwest for the next few days as we get into early next week. Should start to move off to the north. About that time, should start to intensify as well. Here's your track guidance across the board. Do again want to point out, if you notice the 12Z models here calling this a tropical storm, that's because the best track did downgrade it to a tropical storm. Again, after about the 4th, 5th day, should see a push off to the north, possibly northeast, and that's just with an approaching trough, eroding parts of the Azores high. Here's the track guidance. Some slight weakening over the next couple of days. This is because marginal water temperatures, but the big thing, strong shear, dry air. After about day 3 to 5, should start to see it regain strength. And again, that's going to be that baroclinicity as it gets affected by a trough of low pressure. Did mention earlier about Tropical Depression 10 over in the Bay of Campeche. There is quite a bit of recon right now. Let's see here. Starting off, actually currently NOAA 40, or actually Teal 71 is flying. They should be wrapping up over the next couple hours from their fixed mission. NOAA 49, the Gulf Stream, is actually en route to do a synoptic mission. They're going to be flying about 41 to 45,000 feet. And then NOAA 43 taking off at 18Z. 72 is going to take off at 21Z. NOAA 42 at 6Z. And Teal 73 at 9Z. Right now, just going to be giving it a bunch of fixed missions. So we're going to get a lot of data out of this. If that wasn't bad enough, here's a page 2. Do have the Global Hawk 872. They're going to be flying about 55 to 65,000 feet. Actually, they are en route now, looking to drop about 66 drop SONs into it. We've got the ER2 and the DC8 en route. ER2 should be flying at about 60 to 65,000. The DC8 is going to be below 35,000. And then moving into the next day, really just looking at another Gulf Stream 4 flying, and the P3, a couple P3 missions as well as continuing any 12-hourly fixes. So if you're into recon, you're going to get some data, so stay tuned for that. This pretty much rounds us up for today. You can follow more information on Tropical Storm Mani over at westernpacificweather.com. You can also follow along on Twitter and Facebook. And you can also join in on the global tropical discussion at storm2k.org. Follow me on Twitter as well. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day, and please take care.